Imagine being wounded on a battlefield. An arrow tears through your leg. Blood pours onto the ground. Pain shoots through your body. You know that without help, death is only hours away. Now here's the strange part. If this happened in the Roman Empire around 100 AD, your chances of survival might actually be better than if the same injury happened 1,000 years later in medieval Europe. That sounds impossible. Human knowledge is supposed to move forward, not backward. Medieval people lived centuries after the Romans. They had more time to learn, more experience, and access to ancient writings. Yet in many cases, Roman doctors achieved medical results that medieval physicians struggled to match. How could an empire that existed nearly 2,000 years ago save more lives than doctors living a millennium later? The answer reveals one of history's strangest medical mysteries. To understand it, we need to begin with Rome's greatest teacher, war. The Roman Empire was constantly fighting. Legions marched across deserts, forests, mountains, and enemy territories. Every campaign produced thousands of injuries. Sword cuts, spear wounds, broken bones, crushed limbs, burns, and infections were everyday realities. Unlike many ancient civilizations, Rome faced a practical problem. Dead soldiers couldn't fight. An injured legionary represented years of expensive training. Losing him meant losing valuable military experience. So Rome invested heavily in military medicine. Across the empire, Roman armies built specialized hospitals called Valetudinaria. These weren't simple tents with a few healers. They were carefully designed medical facilities located inside military forts. Patients were separated into rooms, supplies were organized, medical staff monitored the wounded. Some hospitals even had drainage systems and running water nearby. For an ancient world that lacked microscopes or modern science, this was surprisingly advanced. Imagine walking into one of these Roman hospitals. You would hear wounded soldiers groaning from nearby rooms. Doctors move between beds, carrying bronze surgical tools. Assistants clean bandages. Orderlies bring fresh water. And perhaps most importantly, the wounded are kept away from the chaos of crowded cities. The Romans didn't know about bacteria. They had never heard of germs. Yet many of their practices accidentally reduced infection. And infection was the true killer. A deep wound was often survivable. The infection that followed usually wasn't. Roman doctors frequently cleaned injuries with wine or vinegar. They believed these substances had healing properties. What they didn't know was that both contained elements that could help kill certain harmful microorganisms. It wasn't perfect, but it was often better than doing nothing. Roman surgeons also developed an impressive collection of medical instruments: scalpels, forceps, bone drills, hooks, catheters, needles. Many look surprisingly familiar to modern eyes. Archaeologists have uncovered entire surgical kits buried for nearly 2,000 years. Some of these tools were so well designed that their basic shapes remained in use for centuries. Roman physicians became especially skilled at treating battlefield injuries. They learned through repetition. Every military campaign provided new patients and new lessons. A doctor who treated thousands of wounded soldiers gained practical experience that few medieval physicians would ever see. And this practical experience mattered enormously. Because medicine is not only about theories, it's about results. But then something changed. The Western Roman Empire collapsed. In 476 AD, the empire that had dominated Europe for centuries finally fell apart. Roads deteriorated. Cities shrank. Trade networks disappeared. Government institutions vanished. And medical systems suffered alongside them. Knowledge wasn't completely lost. Many ancient medical texts survived. But preserving a book and preserving practical expertise are two very different things. Imagine inheriting a cookbook from a master chef. You may own every recipe, but if nobody teaches you the techniques, your meals won't taste the same. This is exactly what happened to much of Roman medicine. The knowledge remained. The experience faded. As Europe entered the medieval period, medical care became increasingly influenced by ancient theories rather than direct observation. Many physicians relied heavily on ideas developed centuries earlier by the Greek physician Galen. Galen was brilliant for his time, but he made one major mistake. Many of his conclusions came from dissecting animals rather than humans. As a result, some of his anatomical beliefs were wrong. Yet medieval doctors often treated his writings as unquestionable truth. If a patient's symptoms disagreed with the textbook, many physicians trusted the book, not the patient. This created a dangerous problem. Medical progress slowed. Instead of testing ideas through observation, many doctors focused on preserving established teachings. One of the most famous examples involved bloodletting. The theory sounded logical. Many believed illness resulted from an imbalance of bodily fluids known as humors. If a patient was sick, removing blood might restore balance. The practice became incredibly common. People suffering from infections, fevers, weakness, and countless other conditions were often bled. Sometimes it helped by coincidence. Often, it weakened patients who desperately needed strength. Meanwhile, many Roman military doctors had focused on practical treatment rather than abstract theories. Their question was simple: how do we keep this soldier alive? Not every Roman treatment worked. Far from it. Some were bizarre. Others were dangerous. Ancient medicine still contained plenty of superstition. But Roman military medicine benefited from something powerful: constant testing under real conditions. A battlefield doesn't care about theories. A treatment either works or the patient dies. This pressure encouraged practical solutions. Another surprising Roman advantage involved sanitation. Rome became famous for its engineering. Aqueducts transported water across vast distances. Public baths existed throughout the empire. Sewers carried waste away from populated areas. Again, Romans didn't understand germs, but cleanliness often reduced disease transmission. In medieval Europe, sanitation varied dramatically. Some cities became crowded, dirty, and vulnerable to outbreaks. Waste accumulated in streets. Contaminated water spread illness. Disease flourished. Then came one of history's greatest disasters: the Black Death. Beginning in the 14th century, the plague swept across Europe with terrifying speed. Entire communities vanished. Doctors desperately searched for answers. Many believed bad air caused the disease. Others blamed planetary alignments. Some thought divine punishment was responsible. Without understanding bacteria or fleas, they had little chance of stopping it. The tragedy exposed the limitations of medieval medicine. Yet ironically, the catastrophe also helped inspire future change. Gradually, some scholars began questioning traditional assumptions. Observation gained importance. Experimentation increased. The long road toward modern medicine had begun. But during much of the medieval period, Rome's practical medical legacy remained difficult to match. There's another reason Roman doctors often performed surprisingly well: specialization. Military physicians treated similar injuries repeatedly. A surgeon who spends years repairing sword wounds becomes highly skilled at repairing sword wounds. Experience creates expertise. Many medieval healers lacked this level of focused practice. Medical care varied enormously from region to region. Some physicians were talented. Others had little formal training. Standards were inconsistent. Roman military medicine, while far from modern, often benefited from greater organization. Perhaps the most astonishing fact is that many Roman medical principles sound familiar today. Clean wounds. Keep patients separated. Use dedicated treatment facilities. Maintain sanitation. develop specialized expertise. These ideas remain fundamental to healthcare. Of course, modern medicine is infinitely more advanced. Today's doctors understand anatomy, bacteria, viruses, genetics, anesthesia, and antibiotics. A modern emergency room would seem like magic to a Roman surgeon. Yet when historians compare Roman military medicine with much of medieval Europe, they discover something unexpected. Progress is not always a straight line. Civilizations can lose knowledge. Institutions can collapse. Skills can disappear. The story of Roman medicine reminds us that history doesn't move forward automatically. Every generation must preserve, test, and improve what it inherits. Otherwise, even remarkable achievements can be forgotten. So the next time you imagine ancient Rome, don't picture only gladiators, emperors, and conquering legions. Picture a wounded soldier lying in a military hospital. A doctor cleans his injury. Assistants prepare bandages. Surgical tools gleam in the light. Outside, the empire continues its endless wars. Inside, lives are being saved. And in one of history's greatest ironies, some of those patients may have received better medical care than people living 1,000 years later. Because sometimes, the most surprising lesson from history is this: the future is not guaranteed to be wiser than the past. As we close today's journey, we see how Rome's medical wisdom shaped history in ways we're only beginning to rediscover. If you enjoyed this dive into ancient medicine, stay with us for our next video. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.